What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing another video today. It is Friday morning, and a bunch of crazy Rostermania stuff happened yesterday. If you did not check out the episode of The Pinch, I think Tommy posted on YouTube at this point. Either it's in his VOD or on his YouTube. Go check that out. But I want to summarize just some overnight thoughts about the situation at surface with Seattle, with Minnesota, and with Boston. We're going to start with Minnesota because that's where things kind of begin and end there. And basically, we're at the point of Rostermania where teams have identified who they want to pick up, and now they're in the process of either trialing people or waiting on decisions. So let's break down. We're going to start off with the Minnesota ROKKR. After, much conversation over the last split or so, we've been talking about the underperformance of Big Wake. It sounds like, unfortunately, Minnesota is moving on from them, and they will be trying out Dak and Gunless over the course of this weekend to figure out who they want to potentially pick up to begin stage 3. Now, what I have heard is that this might be a one-person change. This might be a two-person change. The issue is that they may want to, if they pick up Dak, have him run a sub and move Reese Vivid to an AR. They may not want to do that either. So they may want to pick up Pierce and Dak and then drop Reese and Big Wake. So my guess is of this situation, and if you can check out this article on Breaking Point to give you kind of a good summary here of what's going on. Basically, Minnesota is going to try, from what I've heard, try out some combinations over the course of the weekend, then make a decision next week on who they want to, or potentially earlier if it goes well, on who they want to go going forward, working on potentially some of the new maps coming in like Vista Hardpoint, and in general trying to improve their team's performance in S&D. In game 5s, more consistency in respawn, etc., etc., etc. It sucks, man. I think Wake was expected to be really good on this roster, be one of their premier slayers, but it didn't really work out, and they can't really wait anymore. Minnesota did not have a great stage 2, so they've decided to move on, and we'll see if either Dak or Pierce or both get picked up on this Minnesota team. Now, they are right now, from what I've been told, especially for Dak, the preferred option, and that is what's going to hold back some of the decisions on Boston, Seattle, which we're going to get to right now. So, Seattle Surge have released Alec, aka Arcitys. We covered that in our last video. But here are the discussions now occurring about who will potentially come in. First off, to confirm what JKL reported here yesterday afternoon, I can confirm as well that I've heard 04 potentially coming into this roster for Alec. He's a player who is just really starting off his career. He played a lot of S&D8s over the last couple of years, but had an amazing major playing with Gunless and Classic for lower gold and reverse sweeping in the grand finals of the Challengers event to win. He was incredible in search, and I think that's probably why Seattle's looking at this, because they want to keep at their high level S&D play, because they see that as the path to really locking in consistent top 6 places, even though the respawn patently just sucks. They're a terrible respawn team. They won 3 of them in stage 2. And I'm a little worried with 04 because he's definitely a young player and still has a lot to learn. And I don't know if it's going to make the respawn any consistent. This team will get faster with replacing 04 for Alec, but just as Jake reports here, there's nothing been signed, and obviously things could always change. I've heard Dak is potentially linked to this roster, a couple of other players, potentially as part of a 2-person change. As you see a spot where there are talks about Huke losing his spot on the roster, and then if you scroll down here, you see that Jake tweeted a little bit later that Huke is safe. And I've heard the same. I don't think Kyler's going anywhere. So if they make a 2-person change, what I have heard is likely Brezzy will be the one rotating out. So to confirm, it's probably going to be Huke and Abuja sticking over, 04 coming in, and then a 4th TBD. And I hope as part of this process, they move Abuja to more of a full-time AR. I think that would make the best version of this team. But again, I'm a little worried about communication. I'm a little bit worried about executing team tactics with whoever their changes are. This Seattle team might get better at S&D, but I don't think they're going to get better at respawn potentially with these changes. But, a couple of maps come in and out. Maybe that benefits Seattle. We'll see in respawn. Now, if y'all watching Tommy's stream yesterday, maybe you were sticking by after watching that crazy CS game yesterday. Just an average, normal phase Counter-Strike game that I've seen over the years. Just nothing new. We did a pinch afterwards because a bunch of news dropped while we were doing the CS game. And Tommy got some Boston intel. We were talking about it. We were talking like kind of, making jokes about it. People wanted us to leak. And then Parasite decided to say YOLO, and then Tommy followed them up. And so it looks like right now the rumor at Boston is that Asim and Slasher are going to be replaced by Beans and Pentagram. I also heard via sources that they may be also making some other some front office changes to the coaching staff as part of this process. So let's dive through this. I'm a little surprised. Well, okay, so what am I not surprised about? Austin getting dropped from this team, actually, I'm not really that surprised. I think Control's been a weak game mode for them, and that's not Austin's best game mode, and I do think they want to try something else. So Austin getting dropped for Ben Beans, I don't think for me is that crazy of a move. I think Ben's played better this year than he did last year. I'm a little concerned with Austin's leadership coming out, and Ben's, I think, softest skill is his communication. He definitely shoots gun straight and brings energy. No one's going to doubt what Beans does on that front. But as far as like calling out spawns, doing the small talk, that's not Ben's strongest skill. I know he's working on it. It's going to pull on the shoulders of Priesta if Asim is now being rotated as part of this move for Pentagram. I'm definitely surprised by Asim getting dropped. Listen, Asim, stats in stage 2 were not amazing, but he did play really good when they went to the major. And I think Boston is definitely trying to build around Snoopy. There's a Jacob Hale tweet here that I want to kind of tie into, which is that, this is all a flux situation of Boston. And, I've heard it's a mess at the moment. But basically, his response to, Hope, one of the leakers on Twitter, is that management loves Snoopy too and consider him a long-term investment, not completely safe in my honest opinion. Look, I think no one doubts that Snoop's gun skill is excellent. He definitely can slay, but I don't think he's dropping like generational numbers that I think his spot is safe. And I think if you watch him play, he makes a lot of mistakes, and I just don't know how long you can hold on to that, because this is a game of scams. If you're one person on your team is consistently scamming, you're going to lose maps. In the case of Boston, they've lost many a map in stage 2 and they now sit rock bottom in the standing. So I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that they are keeping Snoop and bringing in Pentagram for Asim. But I guess their process is maybe let's give Snoop one more stage to figure it out, and then if we want to make a change, we want to make a change. We invested a lot in this guy. We called him out at the end of last year at champs. We wanted to build around him this year. Let's give him one more stage. But I'm gonna be honest, he's kind of soft skills. He's 18, by the way, so he can start out to be an excellent player in a year or two once he develops. I just don't know if he's gonna develop and work on the skills that he's really struggling with right now, on communication, on just making mental mistakes, reading spawns. I don't know if he's gonna figure it out the next 2 months before Toronto. So Preston obviously is kind of sort of the one person on this roster I think that's not really gonna get dropped, and I would actually think Boston is smoking crack if they drop him, because I thought Preston actually was their best player at the LAN, and honestly, I don't know what else they want Preston to do here other than try and do everything else on the map. So the Boston situation is a real mess. They are interested in I've heard in players like Dak as well, and they're just kind of stuck in this sort of cyclical thing where a lot of players are being linked to a lot of different rosters and people got to make decisions. But what I've heard right now, going back to the Chris's Hidden tweet we talked about, this is the current rumor on Boston, but I won't be surprised if things change in the next day or two here. And I think then the last thing I want to talk about is the knockdown effect out of this. Will players like Big Wake or Asim or Slasher or Alec get picked up on other teams if they get dropped from these squads? I think it's definitely possible. The Thieves that maybe make a second change if they feel like it. Do LAG maybe find somehow the money to make changes? Do Vegas or Carolina think about making changes now? Do maybe Miami, with seeing all these players available, maybe they think about blowing up the whole full Spanish thing? I guess we'll see with time. I'm gonna be honest, I think maybe at best one of those 3 players I mentioned gets picked up, but I think likely like Asim's gonna go back to FC Black. I don't know, I don't see the full team change stuff like that, but obviously you never know. It's a CDL, things can change on a whim, and we'll obviously cover it here on YouTube, on Twitch as things develop. But I wanted to give you a summary of the roster info that dropped last night because it was crazy. And I'm mind blown about the Boston stuff more so than Minnesota and Seattle. But we'll see what the weekend brings us. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the video. Like if you enjoyed, or subscribe for more. As always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.